The Ivory Tower series is a set of B-tier skins in Identity V that feature characters dressed in school uniforms. It's a school-themed skin line where survivors usually take on the roles of students while the hunters portray authority figures. The series made its debut in Season 14 back in 2021, with the Doctor being the first character to receive one of these skins. At first, I didn't think there would be any kind of storyline tied to the series, but in 2024, as more characters started getting school-themed skins, a narrative finally began to unfold. That story is known as Silent Splendor, which marks the first official tale connected to the Ivory Tower universe. Silent Splendor follows the story of a detective club led by a man known only by his nickname, Wild Child. Alongside his two club members, Answer and Touchstone, they set out to investigate a mysterious fire that supposedly claimed the life of a student named Nightingale. Before them, the club was led by Orpheus, who had also tried to solve the case, but he vanished under equally strange circumstances. After Orpheus disappeared, Wild Child took over the club, determined to uncover the truth behind the fire. But of course, the path isn't smooth. Their first major obstacle? An incident involving the cricket club. So, without further ado, let's dive into the story. The story of the Ivory Tower takes place at a prestigious school known as Demori Academy. This school is famous for its century-long history and its deep-rooted pride in cricket. As part of student life, various clubs were formed, ranging from dance, cricket, and painting to many more, allowing students to explore their interests. Among these clubs was the Detective Club. It was established a year before the main events of the story by a student named Orpheus. He founded the club following a scandalous incident at Demori, a fire at the clock tower that allegedly killed a female student named Nightingale. While the incident was officially labeled an accident, Orpheus believed otherwise. He suspected it was murder and that someone was covering it up. The Academy, however, pointed fingers at a student named Sixpence, accusing him of causing the fire after he was caught smoking near the clock tower. He was expelled soon after. But Orpheus wasn't convinced. He believed Sixpence was just a scapegoat. Determined to uncover the truth, he founded the Detective Club with a student nicknamed Wild Child joining him. Not wanting the Academy's spotless reputation tarnished, the school officials instructed everyone to keep quiet about the incident. Those who knew anything fell silent. But Orpheus didn't back down. He continued digging into the case, which eventually led to his detainment. Still, it's hinted that he uncovered crucial evidence about what really happened during the fire. Upon his release, Orpheus made a bold promise. He would expose the truth during open day in the upcoming social season, but just one day before the event, he mysteriously vanished. Since then, Wild Child has stepped up as the new leader of the Detective Club, and with Orpheus gone, he now carries the mission to finally uncover the truth behind the clock tower fire. One year had passed since the clock tower fire incident. Wild Child, now leading the Detective Club, was determined to solve the mystery. However, at the moment, he was preoccupied with something less serious, searching for the tickets to the final match of the annual inter-school cricket tournament between Demori Academy and Roche Academy. Answer, another member of the Detective Club, kept reminding him to find the tickets quickly, warning that if he didn't, Touchstone, the third member, would tease them about it for an entire month. Eventually, Wild Child discovered, somewhat clumsily, that the tickets had been found and eaten by his pet boar, who had picked them up from a chair. Later, they met up with Touchstone, who, as expected, made sarcastic remarks about the tickets, though he assured them that he could get replacements. On the way to the match venue, Answer ran into her doormate, Pistol. Pistol was a member of the gardening club and the daughter of the cricket team's consultant, which often led her to assist the team. She shared that the cricket team had run into an issue. Their equipment had gone missing. The tools had been stored in one of the 4 transport carriages, specifically the honor carriage. This carriage was reserved for the team captain, the top batter, their close friends, and a reserve player who usually acted as an errand assistant. Strangely, the coachman assigned to this carriage was also missing. To keep things moving, Pistil brought spare equipment, and the reserve player, who was initially sick and intended to skip the match, volunteered to take over as coachman. Unfortunately, before the honor carriage reached the venue, it crashed. Several key players were injured, and the top batter suffered the most serious injuries. The situation was troubling for Damori Academy. However, in an unexpected turn, another reserve player stepped in and performed exceptionally well. Despite having never played in an official match, he played a crucial role and led the team to victory. This reserve player's name was Plank. Wildchild found the name familiar, and Answer reminded him that Plank had been one of the witnesses to the clock tower fire. At the time, Plank and 2 other students had passed by the clock tower and reportedly saw someone other than Nightingale going up. However, later on, all 3 denied seeing anyone. This inconsistency led to the suspicion that they were hiding something. Wildchild expressed his desire to question Plank immediately, but Touchstone advised him to wait for the right moment. Approaching him now, right after a major victory, would be inappropriate and might come off as intrusive. On their way home, the detective club noticed that even though Plank had been the hero of the match, his teammates didn't seem to celebrate him. Instead, they looked at him with quiet disapproval. This reaction further raised suspicion among the club members, leading them to believe that something deeper was going on. Pistil arrived with more concerning news. The cricket club was starting to suspect that the honor carriage accident wasn't an accident at all, but something staged or deliberately caused. This immediately reminded Wildchild of the clock tower fire incident. Pistil explained to the detective club that some members of the cricket team suspected the carriage crash, which injured both the team captain and the top batter, wasn't just an unfortunate accident. The sudden disappearance of their equipment and the strange way the carriage tipped over felt too suspicious to be coincidental. According to the team, the reserve player who stepped in as the coachman that day was their main suspect. That reserve player, nicknamed Touchdown, had a history. He was previously part of the American Football Club, but was expelled due to repeated fouls. He didn't get along well with most people, and was usually assigned physically demanding errands. Despite this, Pistil believed that while the suspicion was understandable, Touchdown probably wouldn't go as far as sabotaging a carriage. She also pointed out something interesting. It was Plank, the same Plank who became the unexpected hero of the match, who had rented the carriage. Seeing an opportunity to speak with him about the clock tower fire incident, Wildchild decided the detective club would take on the case. When they arrived at the cricket field, the scene was tense. The team was shouting in outrage, and Touchdown was doing his best to defend himself, insisting he hadn't done anything wrong. The team's consultant was struggling to maintain control, but with Pistil's help, the crowd eventually calmed down. Most of the players left, leaving only Touchdown, Plank, and the consultant behind. The consultant admitted that Touchdown didn't get along with the team. His short temper played a role, but another part of it was the discomfort older players felt toward talented newcomers. He also revealed that Touchdown's initial reason for skipping the match, being sick, was a cover. In reality, he had been drinking the night before. Then the consultant turned the topic to Plank. Despite his clear talent, Plank rarely attended formal practices. He had transferred from another country, and, unfortunately, many of the team members were biased against foreigners. As a result, Plank was often sidelined, receiving little to no proper training or playtime. Wild Child approached Plank and immediately noticed two suspicious details: a fresh burn mark on his arm and a letter in his pocket that he quickly tried to conceal. Confronting him about the carriage crash, Plank offered his explanation. He claimed to have been traveling in a different carriage when the accident occurred, though he admitted to arranging the rental. When questioned about the original coachman's whereabouts, Plank suggested the man had a drinking problem and had probably wandered off to drink himself into a stupor before the journey began. However, when Wild Child brought up the clock tower fire, Plank froze. He didn't say anything more. Next, Wild Child spoke with Touchdown, who defended himself firmly. He claimed he would never be reckless enough to drink before a match, especially not if he was volunteering to drive the carriage. He listed everything he drank the night before: warm milk, lemon water, and a pot of elderflower syrup. Touchdown also didn't believe the crash was caused by the carriage hitting a loose stone. He explained that carriages had been traveling that route for years, creating grooves in the road that naturally guided the wheels, making such an error highly unlikely. Touchdown expressed his frustration with the team, calling them arrogant and snobbish. He said they were more focused on gaining favor with the senior players than improving their skills. During his first tryout, he had easily outperformed them and even offered feedback about their weak strength training. But instead of appreciating it, the seniors turned on him with hostility. Wild Child started to see why Pistol believed in Touchdown's innocence. If he was truly drunk or guilty, he wouldn't have volunteered to be the coachman and certainly wouldn't have risked getting hurt himself. Touchstone chimed in, suggesting that maybe the drinks Touchdown consumed had been tampered with. He claimed to know about a shady alcohol dealer on campus who might have supplied something. He also proposed checking the crashed carriage, which had reportedly been handed over to a teacher known as Universal Shaft, and tracking down the missing coachman for more clues. The detective club, joined by Pistol, set out to find the missing coachman. They eventually found him sleeping under a shady tree near the lake, clearly drunk. When they woke him up, he admitted that he had been drinking all night at a bar and had passed out just before sunrise. He never intended to fall asleep or abandon his duty. Later, under Touchstone's guidance, the club tracked down a shady student known for dealing prohibited alcohol on campus. Her name was Cheer, a sophomore who ran her underground business from, of all places, the library. Since alcohol was only allowed for senior students, her operation was completely off the books. Wild Child struck up a conversation with Cheer, and what began as a side investigation quickly led to some unexpected clues about the clock tower fire. First, Cheer revealed that Sixpence, the one expelled from the school for causing the clock tower fire incident, used to be her business partner. He was suddenly expelled around the time of the fire, and she firmly believed he had been made a scapegoat. Second, she mentioned a recent rumor circulating among students. The girl who supposedly died in the fire had been appearing in the library. Cheer said the ghost rumors had been bad for business, with students too scared to visit. Her customer count had dropped dramatically. In the past week, she'd only had 3 clients: Swan, the leader of the dance club; Big Shot, a student infamous for being rejected multiple times; and one final customer she couldn't identify. This third customer stood out. According to Cheer, they had bought a pot of elderflower syrup and had a visible burn mark on their hand. The detective club members immediately made the connection. The syrup matched what Touchdown had claimed to drink before the match, and the burn mark sounded just like the one they'd seen on Plank. Now Plank was beginning to look like more than just a reluctant witness. He was becoming a prime suspect. Still, suspicion wasn't proof. They needed hard evidence, so the club decided to examine the damaged carriage, which had been handed over to the physics teacher known as Universal Shaft. After a thorough investigation, the team reached a chilling conclusion. The carriage had clearly been tampered with. This wasn't a fluke accident. Someone had carefully and deliberately sabotaged it, likely with the intent to take down both the team captain and the top batter. Even more importantly, their findings cleared Touchdown of all suspicion. It didn't matter whether he had taken over as coachman or not. The accident would have happened either way. The damage had already been done before the carriage departed. Touchdown had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. When Wildchild connected the person who bought the drink Touchdown consumed with the one who rented the carriage, all suspicion led to one conclusion. Plank was behind the incident. The detective club returned to the stadium, where the argument against Touchdown was still raging. From a distance, Plank stood silently, observing the commotion unfold. Wildchild approached Plank and asked if he felt any remorse for what happened to Touchdown. Plank shrugged it off, explaining that this sort of harsh treatment was considered normal training within the cricket team, or at least, that's what the veteran players always claimed. He himself had endured the same treatment when he first joined. That response struck a chord. Wildchild confronted him directly, asking if that experience was what drove him to sabotage the carriage. Plank froze, caught off guard by the accusation. Wildchild pressed on. He believed that Plank didn't act out of revenge, but rather desperation. Plank had long wanted a chance to prove himself, not just as a player, but as someone who deserved to stand alongside the team. Despite being a newcomer and a foreigner, that match had given him that chance. He had played brilliantly, leading the team to victory, but it wasn't coincidence. It was engineered. Touchstone joined in, laying out the theory in full. Plank had tampered with Touchdown's drink to make him unavailable for the match. Then he had sabotaged the carriage to eliminate the captain and the top batter, leaving himself as the only reserve option. It was the perfect setup. Plank didn't deny anything. His reaction was quiet, but not shocked. There was something in his expression that suggested amusement, perhaps at how close they'd come to the truth, or at how long it had taken them. Wildchild went a step further. He explained that the drink wasn't tampered with to remove Touchdown from the match, but to protect him. Plank had known the carriage would crash, and he didn't want Touchdown to get caught in it. As someone who had endured the same isolation and mistreatment, Plank had wanted to spare him the same suffering. So he had acted, hoping to keep Touchdown out of harm's way. What he hadn't expected was for Touchdown to end up in the carriage anyway, and although his injuries were minor, the crash had still happened. Hearing this, Plank admitted everything. He spoke of how, before joining the team, cricket had been something joyful, something he could play freely, without judgment, until exhaustion. But after joining the club, the game he once loved became restrictive, competitive, and cold. He could no longer play just to play. He had lost his stage. Even after achieving victory, even after finally being seen, it hadn't brought him peace. The excitement faded quickly, replaced with emptiness. Wildchild noted that perhaps the guilt of letting someone else take the fall was what robbed him of that sense of fulfillment. That lingering weight of injustice had taken the joy out of his victory. Without saying anything more, Plank showed a letter he had previously tried to keep hidden. It was from Orpheus. In it, one line stood out above the rest, a clear message that silence makes one an accomplice. Plank decided that it was time to stop being silent. He began revealing what he had seen on the night of the clock tower fire. While camping near the tower, he had witnessed 3 people enter: Nightingale, Swan the dance club leader, and a student named Warning Letter, the son of Duke Creus. Not long after they went inside, the fire broke out. He had told Orpheus about it once, but when the school president demanded everyone remain silent to preserve the academy's reputation, Plank had chosen to say nothing when asked again. Now, finally, he spoke the truth. With the weight of confession behind him, Plank said it was time to face the consequences. Touchdown had already paid the price for something he didn't do. Now, it was his turn. He gave the letter to Wild Child and quietly stepped back into the crowd, prepared to own the choices he had made. With Plank's confession and the letter from Orpheus now in their hands, the detective club had finally taken a decisive step forward in unraveling the truth behind the clock tower fire incident. Wild Child took a moment to reflect on something that had been quietly unfolding in the background. Orpheus, despite his mysterious disappearance, had somehow managed to send out letters related to the incident. So far, 8 letters had been delivered to different recipients. Plank was one of them. That left 7 more. Wild Child listed their names aloud for the group to take in: Lady, Swan, Black Sheep, Encyclopedia, Warning Letter, Signal, and Flint. These weren't just random names. They were individuals, scattered across the academy, each likely carrying a piece of the truth Orpheus had been trying to uncover. Touchstone took the lead in summarizing what they had pieced together so far. From Plank's testimony and Orpheus's prior investigation, they now knew that on the night of the incident, Nightingale had entered the clock tower with 2 other students, Warning Letter and Swan. The fire broke out shortly after. Nightingale died in the flames. Warning Letter and Swan made it out. With Plank's side of the story confirmed, it was now clear who the club needed to investigate next. Swan and Warning Letter, 2 of the 3 who had gone up the tower that night, had to be questioned. But approaching them wouldn't be easy. Both held significant status within the academy. Swan, as the popular leader of the dance club, should had a carefully curated image and a wide circle of influence. Warning Letter, being the son of Duke Crius, carried social power that would make most students wary of even speaking his name. And not just that, Touchstone added that Warning Letter suffers from a certain condition, making him even more difficult to approach. As the club debated how to move forward, there was a sudden knock on the door of the clubroom. Pistol and Touchdown stepped inside. Standing before the group, they revealed their intention. They wanted to join the detective club. In the end, the mystery was far from over, but the pieces were slowly falling into place, and they weren't alone anymore. The story officially ends with Touchdown and Pistol joining the detective club. But as many of you probably know by now, this isn't the end. From recent announcements, it's been confirmed that the Ivory Tower storyline will continue with a brand new chapter titled Forgotten Echo, scheduled for release on August 28, 2025. During the Identity V anniversary livestream on YouTube, we got a little sneak peek into what's coming next. The detective club remains at the center of the story. After Touchdown and Pistol become official members, the group receives a new request. This time from the postman, who's searching for his missing dog Wick, who mysteriously vanished overnight. Wild Child steps up once again to lead the club in what looks to be another thrilling case. From the event poster, we can also spot a few major clues. It looks like the next chapter will dig deeper into the stories of Swan and Warning Letter, 2 people closely tied to the night of the clock tower fire. And that's not all. Several new characters are joining the narrative: Mary, Joseph, Tracy, Cervez, and Aesop. Given that Silent Splendor ended with the discovery of one of Orpheus's mysterious letters, it's safe to assume that Forgotten Echo will bring us more revelations about these letters, and maybe, just maybe, more truth behind the fire. Personally, I'm really looking forward to this continuation. There's something about this series that reminds me of Hercule Poirot from the Agatha Christie novels. The clever pacing, the layered mysteries, the slow unraveling of secrets, and the moral justice of the culprit. It's a refreshing companion to the Truth and Inference series, which follows the sleuthing journey of Mr. Inference and Lady Truth. So if you're a fan of that storyline, chances are you'll love this one too. Once Forgotten Echo drops, I'll definitely be covering the full story, so feel free to join me again when that happens. Hope this recap helped guide you through the first installment of the Ivory Tower series. Thanks for watching. Silmina, signing off.